It's talking about the Thunderfoot were sort of ragged. I was, your League of Reason seemed pretty unreasonable. They just told this whole thing like we're gonna do this blog TV, and then they didn't post a damn blog, and then there was no fucking show, and there's no nothing, and they're gonna fight with creationists. But why don't they fight with me? Why don't they fight with somebody who says, no, it isn't beauty in the universe. The universe sucks. It's built on a stupid premise. Evolution is really dumb. And this pantheism.
You can call into the show.
Yeah, well, so they say. I mean, I guess you could do the Stickam thing.
The show is up, by the way. The last blog TV. It's on the channel League of Reason.
I'm just saying it wasn't there all week, is all I'm saying. So they must have just put it up, because it wasn't there yesterday.
But are you're subscribed to that channel, to League of Reason? Because I mean, they were on like 2 days after. I mean, clips of it, not all of it, because you can only record like 10 minutes at a time.
Well, I'm just saying they weren't there. I wasn't subscribed, but I had the channel open in my browser, and I went to it. It wasn't there. That's all I'm saying. But whatever.
It was kind of funny. There was this creationist guy, Truthful Christian or something. He was arguing that pine cones are getting smaller, and that's because thermodynamics.
Yeah, well, the whole thermodynamics thing gets a little bit weird anyway. I mean, people don't understand the context of it, so it always gets. I mean, I hate that it's called this law, because it's only a law in a context. I mean, it's only a law if you're measuring a closed system. But it's not a law in, obviously, in our context.
Well, I mean, it's not a law, generally speaking right now, but eventually, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the Earth is not a closed system because it gets energy from the sun, but the solar system is a closed system because when the sun will reach his point and the solar system will be crashing.
I'm just saying, but that's the problem is like I said, it has this, it's a rule that governs energy, but it's in that widest frame thing. It's not in our circumstance. I'm just saying that it's almost like it just gets people confused, because then they just find an excuse to say like we're some sort of exception, and we're not an exception. That's the way it works. I mean, you can have isolated pockets of complexity. There's no rule against it, I guess is all I'm saying. It's not like the rule says it's not going to happen. The rule says, no, it'll happen. You can have eddies and all this other complex flow if you have a system that has, rocks in it, impediments, things that'll create that disruption. If you have big bangs.
Yeah, also, I mean, what people don't really seem to get is that, I mean, thermodynamics has to do with physics, it's a branch of physics, and it has nothing to do with biology, especially on Earth, and with evolution, and with none of that. Has absolutely zero impact, at least, when you're considering the timeline of so many fucking 4.5 billion years.
Yeah, I guess that's all I'm saying. It's something that shouldn't even be in the conversation. I mean, we should be more about
but this dude,
physics.
He was arguing that thermodynamics is making pine cones smaller, and then of course all the nerds were coming up, and Don Exodus was, no, because you see there are this type of pine cones and this type of pine cones who are actually getting bigger. So, and he was like, no, because the people were also bigger and now they're getting smaller. He was listening to fucking Kent Hovind. I mean, we were never bigger than we are now. We were like 4'5", a bunch of thousands of years ago. tens of thousands of years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. I mean, that gets all so wacky anyway. It's like, how big can you make a human anyway? I mean, it's a practical matter. Our physics don't work. The body structure only works at a certain size, and when you get too big, it starts to break down. It's like you make a bird too big, it can't fly.
Yeah, but it's also evolutionary. I mean, if you noticed, girls generally like taller guys. But that's generally, and that's why we're getting taller, because they're the ones who get to bang them. But nobody wants, a guy who's really, really tall. So I mean, unless he's like a basketball player or something. So they're not as successful, in making people bigger and bigger and bigger. Just a little bit bigger, maybe.
I actually would like a guy who is really, really tall. Have you heard of Adam Derwitz? He's like almost 7 feet tall. He's a hot guy.
Fuck.
Professor?
Yeah, I don't think it really has anything to do with it, to tell you the truth. But I mean, I think it has more to do with health again. People like people that look healthy. And that power thing, and part of it too, I guess, size will get you some advantages.
I got a question, Gary. You ever find that having this big philosophy interferes with the smaller purposes? I mean, do you ever feel like, I wish I could get back to caring about these little things, like getting this shit done, but I'm missing out on that because I just can't find, it's not worthwhile because there's so much bigger stuff with the bigger purposes and the lack of purposes.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's very dark too. So I mean, it steals a little bit of your gumption, your motivation, because you can't. Even yourself, you can't get caught up in the same little petty addictions and ego pleasures and the rest of that shit that you used to be able to do. So yeah, it's problematic. And I don't know, it's hard to say what the right answer is, because you could say, well, if there's no chance you're going to win, don't buy a ticket. You know what I'm saying? So, if nothing's going to change by you being preoccupied, then why be preoccupied? But I guess the bottom line is, like I said, you can't win it if you're not in it. So if somebody doesn't talk it, if somebody isn't living it, then there's no chance. So I gotta buy the ticket.
Well, if I could characterize what's going on, I mean, I'm pretty fascinated by it because it seems like it's nihilism, except there's a difference, and that is it's negative. The universe is negative, whereas a nihilist would say everything's neutral and there's no point. I think you say there's neutral and negative, and there's no point.
But, nihilism says there is no point in anything and nothing matters, basically. And Gary says that stuff does matter. So it's kind of, it's not nihilism at all.
Right, I'm just trying to point out the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's nihilism with a recognition of harm. So yeah, that's the problem. I mean, there's still a loss. And so it's nihilism minus, which makes it even worse. Because you got the burden of the fact that if it doesn't get fixed, there's a loss incurred. So there's, nihilism gives people that easy out where they don't have to give a damn. They can just do the "don't worry, be happy" thing.
Can I get some teaching powers?
Yes, you can.
And I mean, this is something Chris said just now is that kind of interests me, is she said, Gary's philosophy says that something matters. And the only thing I really understand that matters in Gary's philosophy is the removal of suffering. But beyond that, I don't think anything else matters, does it?
That's all that does. Yeah, everything that has a matter component derives it from that vulnerability. So I don't even know how you could say something else could possibly matter. Of course, sentience is the only thing that matters.